Sunday. Ain't no shame, but there's been a change.
Greene Street Joinery and the American Craftsman podcast are proud to partner with Montana Brand Tools. Montana Brand Tools are manufactured by Rocky Mountain Twist in Montana, USA. With numerous patents dating back to the invention of the hex shank system by our founders, we strive to produce accessories that add precision, flexibility, and efficiency to your toolkit. In addition to woodworking tools, we produce many high-quality cutting tools that are used by the aerospace, medical, automotive, and industrial markets. Our end product has a fit and finish that is beyond comparison. Montana Brand Tools are guaranteed for life to be free of defects in material and workmanship because we build these tools with pride and determination. For 10% off your order, visit MontanaBrandTools.com and use the coupon code American Craftsman. All right, people, we're back. Episode 13 of the American Craftsman Podcast, Season 2. We'll be wrapping up the Pennsylvania Dutch section today.
I gotta be honest, this was a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
There was much less, like, I already started doing the research for the federal, and I could see that there's just so much more information and, you know, like really well-known makers and details to go into. Is that somebody at the door?
No, that's my reminder to call Parts Express. I muted it, and then we did the audio test, and I had to unmute it. I can't win. Can't win.
So although it's a pretty interesting group, I also found that there was so much overlap, and the time period, like I was supposed to be kind of concentrating on the beginning of the emergence of the Pennsylvania Dutch movement and the furniture, but this all happens like in the 1720s and forward.
Yep.
And most of the information is really almost
late 1800s.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a light episode, it is what it is. Rather than take a winter break like we're planning, you guys might get a little short episode today because we don't have that much information. But
so we can recap because this has been over a month span, these episodes. So we started with who the Pennsylvania Dutch were.
Mm-hmm.
Basically Germans around the Rhine River Valley, coming over, like we're talking about colonial America still.
Yep. So
a lot of the original settlers came because of religious persecution in the homeland and things like that, and the Quakers, Mennonites, and Amish were no different. And they kind of brought something different because most of the other people we were talking about now were English and French, mostly the English. And the Germans had a different take on it. They really had that sort of architectural kind of form in their furniture. And there weren't a lot of well-known Amish, but I did find a couple of others that sort of crossed over into this episode. We talked about Henry Lapp. We talked about, folk art.
Noah Zook,
of course. Last week, we wrapped up with Amish cuisine, and we may be finding ourselves getting some cup cheese here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we ever wind up having a holiday get together, we might have to serve some waffles and fried chicken.
Oh man, we better get to planning. The clock's ticking for that.
I know. What day will this air? Will this air on Christmas Eve?
No, this will air on Friday's what, the 11th?
Yeah.
So it'll air on the 18th.
Okay. Week before Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess for next week we got to film a Christmas episode.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. So this episode I titled Amish Furniture Today.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to maybe encapsulate what's the legacy of Amish furniture. What did they bring to people like you and I? And there are a pair of schools that are still in existence.
Well,
and we'll get into those. So, to recap, Amish furniture, it first gains attention in the 1920s, a full 200 years after our first episode began.
Yep.
Folk art is discovered, so to speak, by dealers, historians, and they start placing great value on the beauty and quality of the pieces. I mean, if you think about folk art, in a way, it's so subjective, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I mean, all quote unquote art.
You know, all of a sudden, somebody somebody of note decides, hey, this piece out of this time period is cool,
Mm-hmm.
and the sheeple say, yeah, I gotta have me some of that.
Yeah.
And what used to just sit around in the corner of, you know, an Amish barn becomes worth 50 grand.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a funny thing. Now, a little side note, this shop, the outside, the skin of the building was actually built by the Amish. So they're still producing today.
Mm-hmm.
People shop for furniture, like they build kitchens, they build all sorts of stuff and install them in this area.
Yeah.
So today they enjoy wide popularity and praise for their continued dedication to handcrafting. I mean, compared to a lot of the junk that we see produced by shops around here, the Amish are head and shoulders above.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely bad examples of Amish stuff too, which is, you know, just like factory made, the same bullcrap. But
Yeah.
they definitely, there's a lot of really skilled Amish.
Yeah. It's because, I mean, the old school, they're taking the boys out of school after the 8th grade and putting them into the trade.
Yep.
I mean, think about where we'd be if we had that sort of education.
Yeah.
And they're still doing things basically. Well, I guess that's not true. I was going to say they're still doing things basically the way they did, but the Amish are kind of they're like most of these really. I gotta be careful how I word this. You know, these groups they're sidestepping the rules a lot. Like they might not be hooked up to the electrical grid, but they got everything running on compressors
or diesel generators. Yeah.
Or they have rules in the community that say, well, this is so important to the community that these guys can plug in.
Yeah.
So I wonder, you know, how much of, you know, what they're doing is really old school.
I don't think any of it is.
So you think they're riding on the coattails of their predecessors?
No, I mean, just because they're using modern equipment doesn't mean they're doing bad work.
Right,
I mean,
right. But I
that's
mean,
what we do.
Part of the attraction to some people is that it's, you know, the Amish are this...
I don't think anyone thinks that the Amish are making this stuff like with hand tools. And the Amish aren't claiming to be.
No.
I mean, you have to be thick to think that that's how they do it, and they're selling it for the price that they are.
Yeah. So, because I put here, some of their beliefs may be deemed outdated or old-fashioned by mainstream society, but they are not so isolated to be out of step with the demands of the larger English marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's self-preservation. Do you stay a fundamentalist and the society dies because you can't survive in a modern society? Or do you say, well, we'll make some exceptions and, you know, allow ourselves to continue on and make some money because we need it to survive.
Yeah, yeah. I also noted that the styles they build in have a lot less to do with their own traditions and more to do with current trends. Like for the most part, there's no modern Amish style. They're producing, in a way like any modern cabinet shop is. What does the client want?
Yeah, you got to sell what people want to buy.
And that's what we're going to build. But for the most part, there are 3 styles that are each going to receive their own episode that are most often associated with today's Amish furniture makers. And we have the Mission, Arts and Crafts, and Shaker. I would have loved to have delved into, I don't know what the right verb would be. Dived into those. But since they're all going to receive their own episodes.
Is Mission its own separate episode?
It is. Huh. Yeah.
Isn't Mission just a ripoff of Arts and Crafts?
Yeah, I think I'd have to double check the 12 things, but I did put that they're each going to have their own episode. Yeah, Mission and Arts and Crafts and Shaker, they're so similar. So I may have misled you on that.
Well, Arts and Crafts and Shaker definitely have their own.
Yeah.
And Mission will be integral to Arts and Crafts if it doesn't have its own.
Right. They all, have, if we're comparing it to, some of the more florid styles, they're very minimal use of decoration and kind of focus on craftsmanship. So much of Amish-made furniture captures the spirit of arts and crafts, celebrating craftsmanship over mass production. Whether that's really true, I don't know. I mean, they do produce, but
not the same as like Raymore and Flanagan.
Yes, very true. I mean, what are the similarities and differences in our shop? Like, how would you, where would you put us in that?
I mean, I think that this shop probably operates a lot like a small Amish shop.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a similar sort of setup and set of processes.
I would agree with that. I would say that some of the beliefs in quality and things like that, endurance of the products that we're making, that's something that we have in common, and we've both worked in places where that's not an issue.
Yeah.
After they get that final handshake and check, they just sort of drive away with a clear head.
Yeah.
So I came across a couple of schools that are still going on. They started in the 1800s. Actually, the Jonestown School started in the late 1700s, but the Jonestown School and the Soap Hollow School are two. I don't know of another word besides school, but it's sort of that. It's the methodology, it's the look, it's the identifiable characteristics of furniture produced in those small areas, similar to like the Newport.
So it's not an actual school.
Right. It's they call them schools, but it's sort of like
style.
Yeah, there you go. A sort of small geographic area where this identifiable product comes out of it.
Right.
And everybody works in that vernacular. The Jonestown School is most widely known for painted blanket chests decorated with flowers on 3 panels. And these chests are on display at the Smithsonian and the Met in New York City.
Never heard of them.
No, me either.
Must be small little local museums.
It is wild to think that, you know, these pieces made just to be used by somebody. These came out of somebody's house.
Yeah.
You know, and at one point in time, somebody designates that it's important enough, and it just gets, you know, put on display as this important piece of history. Another identifiable style of Amish furniture is from the Soap Hollow School, the Soap Hollow, Pennsylvania. Now, this is, again, more modern. Between 1834 and 1928, it's a distinct branch of Pennsylvania Dutch furniture, and it emerges in this little 3-mile-long valley, and it's just south of Jonestown. So I found more information on Soap Hollow, and there were some people that were quite adamant that it is its own distinct branch and not to be confused with the Jonestown School. Most of the work produced in the Soap Hollow School has been lost to time, but there are about 175 identifiable pieces remaining. So this almost feels like it's an archaeological thing. You know what I mean? Like they're coming across things, identifying them, and saying this belongs to this group of artisans.
Right.
And in this respect, like most of the Amish, they were also farmers, general carpenters, undertakers, and such by day, and they also made furniture for most of them. They also almost like a maker, huh?
They're hobbyists.
Yeah. They were the first makers. It's believed that most of the furniture building was done in the winter months when the fields were inactive.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and just like makers, most of these pieces were made for friends, family, and personal use.
Let's not offend anybody.
All right, so Soap Hollow furniture differed from other Pennsylvania Dutch work by being less colorfully decorated. The colors used were deep red, green, and black. We kind of talked about how painting and decorating was one of the hallmarks of Pennsylvania Dutch, of the Amish.
Yeah, and I feel like most of the examples we saw were sort of in that color scheme.
Yeah. So the Soap Hollow School kind of tones down the decoration and goes with simpler palettes, thick shaped skirts, bracket feet. All right, that's kind of typical of what we've seen. Backboards, keyhole shaped escutcheons. So I'm going to pull up this link here because it almost looks, it's definitely simpler. It almost looks earlier, doesn't it? Rather than later. Are you looking at the red chest?
Yeah. Most of the examples we saw were more like hope chests, and this is like a chest of drawers.
Yeah.
It was hard to compare, but the painting is definitely a little more understated.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And here's the thing that I found that makes Soap Hollow so unique. The makers sign their work. And a lot of times they would put MF, manufactured by, and then their name. And they wouldn't put it in the back. They wouldn't put it, they'd put it like right up front.
Yeah, there's an example from maybe the first or second episode where where they have that.
Mm-hmm. So rather than follow traditional practice of possibly signing their work, where most actually didn't, in a less conspicuous place, Soap Hollow craftsmen boldly placed their marks across the front or sides of the work. And the most prolific was John Sala, who also trained about half a dozen furniture makers. Henry Lapp's name came up. You know, we went over him last week in good detail, but he came up in this group, and they kind of lumped him in because he abandoned that Germanic style and sort of was, you know, working outside the box. But I don't know why he came up when I was looking up Jonestown and Soap Hollow schools. That might just be a lapse on my my note taking.
I think it's just a tie into today.
Yeah,
because he was the one of the first people to be, you know, of note in present times.
Ah, there you go. There you go. The Amish furniture today. Yeah, Henry Lapp, John Sala, Soap Hollow School. And got more head-spinning numbers here. The record price for American folk-painted furniture sold at Sotheby's in 1986, now that's quite a while ago, was a tall case clock made in 1801 by Johann Spittler, sold for $203,500. So
chump change.
No. I mean, when I'm watching shows like Antiques Roadshow, sometimes there'll be like this really cool piece and you could see all the craftsmanship and everything. And then the expert will come on and goes, yeah, you know, that'll probably sell for about $6,000. I go, man, we couldn't make that for $6,000.
Yeah.
And then you get the folk art, which has this crazy value attached to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything like that with antiques, the values wax and wane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so folk art, let's say folk art is hot this year. Well, in 5 years, it might be whatever. Arts and crafts might be the expensive thing again.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you know, something that we do and really like to do comes in vogue. That would be cool. I mean, for a while it was white painted. We were not thrilled with that.
It's still white painted.
No.
It's always been white painted.
That'll
be an omnipresent.
It will
style.
always be white painted.
Yeah,
White painted shaker. Yeah. So I mean, think about it. The title, Amish Furniture Today, and you know, shaker. I guess it's associated with them. How much of that do we really see out there being made? I mean, would you say it's half of the kitchens that we see going in are that style?
What?
Like a white painted shaker or in the shaker style?
Well, I mean, but they're not really shaker style.
No,
that's just what they call it.
Yeah, because the proportions are all wrong
and yeah, I mean, the shakers weren't known for frame and panel doors. They're more known for flat slab.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't put like beaded crown molding up on their stuff.
No, I mean, the terminology shaker now is sort of a misappropriation.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you could add to this mini episode?
I mean, you could see the Pennsylvania Dutch were not that influential or significant, I'll say, and that's not to detract from what they were doing, but you know, it could be because they were so insular that, you know, their style never reached other people, and maybe it would have developed more if it had. And they weren't really going out to draw influence from other places. You see guys like Henry Lapp, who would go out to Pennsylvania and see different things and then bring it home and put it into their furniture. But people who are isolated like this, similar to the Shakers, you know, you don't see a whole lot of changes in the style. Just sort of stays the same and doesn't really develop very much.
You know, that's an awesome point that I'd never even thought of when I you know, was reading through this page after page, but they didn't really have influence on the outside world at all. In fact, they were discovered, so to speak. I keep using that phrase. Well after their time of producing this work.
Yeah, 100 years ago.
And nobody's recreating it really. Like it didn't push its way into, unless it's sort of like a kitschy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas the earlier works were sort of building upon each other. The stuff that we went into, there was early colonial and the American, and then, you know, along came Chippendale. All these things were sort of tied together, and this happened in a vacuum.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you do see this style furniture being sold, but it's not, again, it's just stuck in time. It's not, doesn't get any attention because it's just the same. It's been the same forever.
Yeah. I mean, do you think they've had any influence on furniture makers outside their community? Like, if we go back to their style that they built in?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's somebody out there who... But again, I don't think it's very significant.
Right. It's like people like you and I, we like the Greenes and Stickleys, and, you know, you could see we try and emulate some of their things, but we haven't really thought of the Amish style in that same way.
No.
It's like, man, we got to make a painted chest and put some doves on it.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So it's just not as attractive to folks like us.
Yeah, I mean, some people like that kind of thing. It just doesn't it happens to not be us.
I bet I'll cut myself off there.
I'm not going to ask.
So as this episode airs, it's a week before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got any plans?
We talked about it on the Patreon, but we tend to do this on the 4th episode. Let's talk about what's going on in the shop.
All right, let's.
So yeah, let's see. Trying to think of where we left off with the last 4th episode, what we were talking about. I think we were working on the Hoboken stuff. We were building the white cabinet and for the one job, and then the wine wall and the shelves for the other job. So we got both of those installed a couple weeks ago, which would be, I don't know, this is like a month ago when you're listening to this. We're going to look at some jobs or a job today. We got the church installed this week for the altar rail. Pretty sure we talked about that at one point.
You know, it was nice that big cabinet fit in the elevator.
Yeah. This is tough because I don't remember what the hell what we have talked about, what we haven't talked about. But yeah, going up to Bergen County to look at a multi-part job, some different stuff, wall unit, potential bar with some metal. I don't know if that's still on the table, but
the heartbeat.
Yeah, some beams, a banquette.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's an interesting job. We'll get a good look at that ceiling height.
Yeah.
Which is that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
my fear of standing on top of that scaffold.
Oh, it's not bad. I gonna have to make it double height.
I know.
That's nothing.
And nothing.
You fall off, you won't even know. It'll be a quick, painless.
Be quick.
Quick, painless death.
That's right. It's like when I fell off the ladder, it was several years ago now. I hit the ground before I even knew I was falling.
Oof.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, because I was standing on the top of a 6-foot ladder, like the tippy top.
Oh yeah, that's never a good idea.
Because that's how I used to think in my youth. And this was right at the cusp of my, well, it was probably not, it was well past my youth, but I hadn't really had to test my old age reflexes. I was still thinking I had those young cat-like reflexes.
I don't think anybody's got reflexes on the top of a 6-foot ladder. There's not really much you could do.
But so I'm standing on the top of it thinking, as I'm climbing up there, I'm going, yeah, you know, what's the worst going to happen? It's ladder falls. I'll just jump off. I'll land on my feet, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Do I have to finish the end of that story?
I don't think so.
It didn't turn out quite like that, we'll just say.
Oh, man.
I will add, I was just lucky to avoid any kind of permanent injury.
Yeah. I mean, you could die off the top of a 6-foot ladder.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I can't remember what I was doing, but I haven't done anything nearly that stupid since. That was quite a day of reckoning for me.
Yeah, it takes some chances here and there, but nothing crazy. What else we got going on?
Well, has Secret Santa happened yet?
Well, the drawing will have been a week ago.
Yeah.
So people will probably buy in and getting those things
Get
in the
those
mail.
things in the mail, yeah.
Did we talk about Barry getting picked up?
No, Barry. Well, we mentioned that Barry was on his way out. We're hoping that the snow that was scheduled for the next day. It's hard talking because
I don't think we talked about it. We talked about it on the Patreon.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So the wide belt sander will have been sold last week. Tentatively, it's sitting right over here on top of the engine hoist.
Yeah, we got a couple more people waiting in line.
Yeah. So yeah, we're getting rid of that. Hoping to maybe replace it with a small wide belt sander eventually.
Yeah, we got our eye on two similar models.
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a tool or machine you can't trust or rely on.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Oliver Planer.
Yeah, and in reverse, it's so nice. Like the jointer, you can just go over and joint something.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's quick, you want to just do a few passes on one board, or 200 board feet. You know what you're going to get from the joiner. Yeah,
there's inconsistency is a killer. That's for sure.
Yeah, I hate that. I love having tools that I know, whether it's your tape measure, like where that you should put your pencil line and stuff like that. Got a sneeze coming? Salud.
Oh, thank you. Man, I felt that one coming.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might be all we got this week, guys.
Yeah. Take a little vacation.
Yeah. It's been we had a crazy rush, and now it's quieting down a little bit. We're getting into that Christmas time lull.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's going to pick back up quick because that's how it happens.
Yeah, it's been a funny year like that for us. We've been really, really busy, and then we'll have everybody chopping at our heels. We'll get everything done, and we'll go, oh man, we didn't line up our next job. Yeah. And then they all flood in again. So it's been like that rhythmically the whole year.
Feast or famine. It's always feast or famine.
Yeah. I would love to be in a nice, consistent stretch where we could pace it out better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we still have a dozen bids floating out there.
Yes.
Of work that, is happening. Whether or not we're going to be the ones doing it, we don't know. But so who knows? It all could hit at once.
By the time this actually airs, we may have begun the job we're going to look at today in real time.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, at least done some ordering or something like that to that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is it. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Next week. No, sorry. Next week it's Christmas.
Yeah, the episode following this will come out on Christmas Eve.
All right, we'll put on a Christmas episode. We missed the Halloween episode, which was really, I was looking forward to that. The candy tasting and yeah.
I forget what we had something going on.
Yeah, we dropped the ball on that one.
Working. I was just working.
Yeah, we were busy through that stretch. We weren't thinking straight. So, arrivederci.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Don't forget vesting finishes. rpmcoatingsolutions.com. Coupon code American Craftsman. Get yourself some finish. Montana, American Craftsman over there. And yeah. So we'll see you next week.
I want to thank all our patrons.
Yeah. For
supporting the show. Sending out those good vibes.
Yeah. You can become a patron also. Head over to our Patreon. We got the bonus show going on over there. Aside from some other stuff.
Digging deeper, just like Oak Island.
Cutting deeper.
Cutting deeper.
But yeah, anyway, we'll see you guys next week for some sort of Christmas episode. I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about, but.
Oh, yeah. Our favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah, that'll take up at least 30 seconds.
Christmas with the Cranks.
Oh, God. That's a horrible movie. We'll see you next week.
Ciao.